Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So today I'm going to talk specifically about why I decided not to keep my 2023 Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro and instead opted to get back into for the fourth time a Toyota Land Cruiser. And hopefully, well, it is going to be the last time because I'm never going to find a new one ever again, or one with 77 miles on it anyway, right? So my last opportunity to have the legendary nameplate of the Land Cruiser here, and it feels awesome to be back into it. And you guys know I'm a little bit of a broken record, I understand. But I didn't get back into this for views. If I wanted views and more subscribers on my channel, a smart YouTuber would have kept the new cheese, right? A smart YouTuber would have kept the 2023, the brand new Sequoia TRD Pro and made a bunch of content, right? So I hope you can kind of have that in the back of your mind too. I went back to this because this is, no kidding, where my heart has always been. This is the most bulletproof platform. And a lot of people, it's kind of an old saying, a lot of people say, the Land Cruiser will be the last vehicle you'll ever own. Not just because of its ultimate reliability, we get that, it's bulletproof. The 5.7 liter V8 in this tied to the 8-speed buttery smooth transmission is a bulletproof combination. But it's not even about that. It's about, once you drive one of these around, it's hard to shake the idea. It's hard to shake the feeling that it provides you. So the driving experience of this really is unlike anything else. Not because it's exceptionally well performing, because it's not, right? I mean, we're 381 horsepower and 401 foot-pounds of torque is not that riveting, right? Especially when you compare that to that Sequoia TRD Pro and the 22 and up Tundra TRD Pro. I mean, the numbers blow this out of the water. And let me be the first to say that Sequoia really was more enjoyable to drive. So it is a more thrilling experience. It really throws you in the back of your seat with the tremendous horsepower that it had. 583 torque and 437 horsepower. So much better than you would ever find in the old 5.7 liter V8 here. But what I mean by the driving experience is just the feel of it. And you'll never know until you drive it. So this is just going to fall on deaf ears, I understand, but it really is like driving a bank vault around. And I know probably some of you guys have heard me say that before, but it really does feel like such a grounded vehicle, such a sturdy vehicle. It's extremely hefty. Everything just feels extremely overbuilt and well made within this. Although kind of dated on the inside at this point with this 200 series here, it being the last year of the 200 series too. Let me get out of the wind. Sorry guys. Although dated, nothing in here is going to blow your mind by any means, right? Even the center infotainment section here is kind of, it's meh at the end of the day. But as you start feeling it on a day-to-day basis, you still have metal finish here, not aluminum, but like a metal finish here. Everything just feels premium. Everything feels hefty. Even these seats, right? So when you look at it with your naked eye, you're like, okay, cool, yikes, whatever. But when you actually feel it on a day-to-day basis, there's just something about it, guys. And for those of you who have owned a Land Cruiser, you know what I'm talking about. The engineers, the techs out at Toyota, they have always built this flagship SUV, this legendary nameplate, to last at least 25 years with minimal maintenance. That is their going-in approach. And after having owned a few of them, I can attest to that, not so much from driving and putting a bunch of miles on it, you guys know, but just, the feel of it, right? And that's really what it boils down to. Even the doors, I've talked about this a few times too, extremely hefty. Although, to give credit to the Sequoia also has some pretty hefty, heavy feeling doors. So it does feel, the Sequoia does feel premium, especially compared to the previous generation Sequoia. It does feel much better in that regard. But I remember seeing a video once upon a time, it does exist out there, where there's a side-by-side video showing underneath a Land Cruiser, the 200 series, next to the previous generation Tundra, and every single component underneath the vehicle is just thicker, just bigger, right, on the Land Cruiser. And you can just tell it truly was built to last, even by comparison to the Tundra. But that is largely why it drives that premium price tag that scared off most people. It scared me off for many years too, just because I never understood why it warranted $80,000 plus for a very bland, basic looking SUV at the end of the day, right? Let me pan out a little bit. Like when you look at that and you see that driving down the road and you don't know what it is, you'd be like, okay, cool. It's a glorified Highlander, right? Is what it looks like to most people. And that is certainly a part of its appeal. You know, I mean, the fact that you can drive this around and not be screaming in people's faces, you know, not trying to be overly flashy or overly gaudy. I really appreciate that about the Land Cruiser. But you also have some pretty cool, unique touches, small touches like this that are unique to the Heritage Edition. A big piece of why I really appreciate the Land Cruiser over that Sequoia is this. So we got the rear hatch, the split rear hatch, which is awesome because if you ever put groceries back here, like on the Sequoia, and we open up the rear hatch, it was bound to have stuff fall out of it. It was almost inevitable. But with this, if you put any groceries, although very similar or even less cargo space compared to the Sequoia, at least it's not going to come falling out on you, right? And then you can just release it right here with the electronic release, and have your nice little tailgate here. So I really like this. I appreciate that about the Land Cruiser here. So one thing I don't think a lot of people talk about, God, yikes, kids, is the fact that the seats fold up to the side. And although I would still argue the Sequoia is a little bit more conducive with the second row captain's chairs, you know, my oldest could walk through the center and come back to the third row in the Sequoia, this is still pretty nice and convenient. We just pop open up the rear hatch here, and they can jump in back here and easily get to their seat. Right here, my oldest can do that pretty easily. So this still allows for as easy as it can get, I think, entry for the kiddo here, with still allowing a little bit, quote unquote, extra cargo space. One thing compared to the Sequoia is you do have a noticeable amount of additional headroom in the Land Cruiser here. So definitely a benefit for the Land Cruiser. I'm gonna get out of the wind here, guys. But the overall, and I'll pop in here in a second too. Another huge factor of the Land Cruiser over that Sequoia is the visibility, and I didn't think that this was going to be the case, and it's for a few reasons. I mean, right when you get in, you can notice that the windshield of the Sequoia is not as big as the Land Cruiser, and I kind of hinted at it right there too. You got a little bit more headroom in the Land Cruiser, a little bit higher of a vehicle, and the seating position is a little bit better, allowing for just more of a fishbowl feel. You know, you can either love that or hate it, but when it comes to having a commanding view of the road and full 360 view around the vehicle, the Land Cruiser really does an exceptional job at that, and it just feels awesome when you're driving around. So, personally, and this is where I might get a little controversial on accident, I just feel like there's been a huge push for, you know, going green and going hybrid. And I know that, you know, part of it's politically driven. I get it. Won't dive into that. But, you know, by everything you see, whether it's commercials on TV, everything is just constantly pushing toward getting hybrids out into the ether, getting those out there. And soon enough, and very soon, I would argue, things like this are going to be a distant memory. You know, comfortably within the next 15 years, things like this, I think, to be fair, although it's going to become a distant memory, I don't think the values are going to shoot up. I think the values are going to drop quite a bit on things like this in that near future. It isn't going to be until, you know, 20, 25 plus years from now where we start to see them skyrocket back up, because they become that coveted item. They become relics of the past of, oh, wow, you grew up driving V8s? Wow, that's freaking awesome. You know, we're not far from that, I think, at this point. And, you know, you can open up the discussion for, well, you know, hybrids are better for the environment, blah, 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 blah. You know, when it comes to fuel economy and fuel consumption anyway, that Sequoia was not getting much better miles per gallon than this. That Sequoia, I was getting right around 16 to 18 miles to the gallon in that thing. And it's a V6. A twin turbo V6 with a giant battery pack underneath the rear seat. So it is kind of baffling that, you know, although I am getting about 12 to 13 at the moment as I'm breaking in the motor in this, the engine in this. So, but the 5.7 liter V8 is notoriously a very thirsty platform, so I won't sugarcoat that, okay? But you're also trading that for reliability. That's the age-old discussion. I'd rather pay a few additional bucks at the pump compared to actually spending time with it in the shop for repair, right? So you pay additional for fuel, but you're having that full 100% peace of mind that it is always going to work for you. And the fact that this really is the vehicle that is built and engineered to last 25 plus years with minimal maintenance. No other vehicle manufacturers do that. And I would almost argue, and I don't mean this as a slight at Toyota, I would almost argue that they've distanced themselves from this mantra on the 300 series. It's too soon to say for sure, but I have gotten multiple people telling me who live overseas and have access to the 300 series. They have said that even the 300 series feels inferior to the 200 series here. Obviously easy for me to say that, being the guy who owns the 200 series. I get it, but multiple people, and feel free to chime in on comments as you had in the past. I know an individual who bought a 300 series, did not like it compared to his previous 200, and went back to a 200 series because this just felt more hefty, more sturdy, and just felt like it was built with better products in mind, better material. So that's what he told me anyway, and I've heard that on multiple occasions. So if you happen to be an individual who lives overseas and you've driven both and experienced both, I'd truly be curious to know what your feedback has been. So overall, with it being a Heritage Edition too, you guys know I won't geek out about all the differences of the Heritage Edition compared to a normal Land Cruiser, but I love the fact that it does have blacked out accents, like in the headlights here, it being a darkened housing. I've always really appreciated that look, and the darkened chrome up front. I thought it really brought this vehicle together, and this was the best possible look that we can make the 200 series. The gold wheels, bronze forged BBSs certainly help too. And yes, we are going to be swapping out these Dunlop tires soon enough, but for now, I just barely fit in that garage, so I need to maybe consider a swap out of the Yakima Mega Warrior roof basket for something else. Perhaps Westcott Designs or Prinsu, haven't decided just yet. I'll fire it up for fun too. Unlike the Sequoia, we actually have a pretty nice material, suede material for the headliner. So I'm pretty shocked that they did not do that in the 2022 and up Tundra TRD Pro and the 23, of course, Sequoia TRD Pro. I thought for sure they would have done that. In the Sequoia, you get a ton more tech. And again, this is where I'm trying to be critical. The Sequoia's interior, I would still argue, is a nicer place to be due to the creature comforts, right? So you have wireless Apple CarPlay. You don't get that in this, of course. A pretty dated. Let me we'll fire it up here in a second, actually, but a pretty dated interior overall. But like I mentioned, the feel of everything is superior in this, and that's why you really like it. All the controls are very easy, simplistic to use. I love the fact that it has the quote-unquote classic cruise control down here. I've gotten really used to using that. The Sequoia and Tundra, of course, have the fully digital display here for the gauge display, whereas we, of course, have the old, quote-unquote, old analog gauges here, which part of me appreciates that and will always appreciate that because that isn't going to break. Well, very unlikely by comparison to a fully digital display, right? Where we do have the full high-resolution center stack there, which is nice, of course. I remember the first time I saw this, I thought this was, I was like, wow, talk about a granny car. We got a bunch of wood trim in here. It's not even like a dark, not like a black wood trim, nothing that looked too cool. But I don't know, it grows on you, right? As you drive it around and you feel it, it's just, I don't know. Obviously, I've developed a bias. I won't deny that, guys. Have some nice stitching throughout it, being the Heritage Edition, that bronze stitching all throughout. But, as you can tell, we got a very commanding view of the road and all around. No matter what direction you look, it is a fishbowl in here, for sure. So, I've always appreciated that. The standard sunroof doesn't have a pano. That was never an option for this, of course. I'll turn it on real quick. Got 1,600 miles on it now, but high res there. As you saw, the telescoping steering wheel came toward me a little bit there. I'll turn it back on just in case my Bluetooth triggers to it. But it is nice hearing that V8 roar to life, even though it's subdued in this, of course. It's not loud. It doesn't have a TRD catback exhaust or anything, but it's a Land Cruiser at the end of the day. You're not trying to be, isn't for that, right? Nice LED headlights up front, of course, and fogs. So there you have it, guys. Although I sold the Sequoia and the Tundra ultimately to buy land, and I did, buying this at the time that I did was not planned. That's why I do have to sell my 4Runner TRD Pro, which I'll be officially posting it online and on classified sites here this week. So if you guys are interested in that, just let me know. We can chat about it there. Reach out on Instagram for that. But yeah, it does feel good. I won't belabor my point too much longer. It feels good being in the last of the V8 Land Cruiser nameplate, and the last one offered in the US. I do think we're going to likely see the 300 series in the coming years, so I don't think it's forever gone, but it does feel nice to be back in the V8 here, especially as we are distancing ourselves from that as a nation, the whole world is, right? So this is a relic. Very grateful to have it, and it is a goal of mine to actually keep a hold of this one much longer. I know it goes in one ear and out the other at this point, but it is a goal to keep a hold of it much longer than my previous ones, of course. So let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you think, I should have kept that Sequoia TRD Pro over buying another Land Cruiser. Tell me the truth. Appreciate you watching as always. Until next time.